What's going on, guys? Aaron from Top Tier Gaming here, and today I'm bringing you an updated list for my Infernity deck, and let me tell you guys something. I've been hitting the books, I've been studying up, I've been in the lab, coming up with this deck, and I've been doing everything I can to just make Infernity as good as possible, because it's a deck I've played a lot in the past, and, I like to solitaire with the deck a lot, but it has very big problems in the fact of hand traps, going second. It has some issues, but I think we found a build that is super powerful and can definitely play through hand traps, and I've sort of made the list in a way where it can play through as many hand traps as possible and still end on those 12 negate boards and those absolute monstrosities of end boards, because this deck has one of the highest ceilings in the game. It has like one of the highest skill ceilings as well. It's super fun to play, and I'm always trying to push this deck a little further than it was in the previous build. Before we get into the list though, Discord down below, we do have our Top Tier Gaming Discord if you want to check that out, hang with our awesome community, and just have a bunch of fun. Yeah, link down below, along with our link tree that has all of our media, our social media attached. And yeah, it turns out 90% of you guys are not subscribed, so if you do enjoy deck profile content and all the sort of decks and builds we put on the channel here, feel free to subscribe. It would help us a lot and we would appreciate it. So without further ado, let's get into this Infernity deck profile. So starting off, there's going to be a lot of like methodology and theory in this deck, because I've taken a certain route with it and I've gone through a bunch of different routes you can go with the deck to try to make it as consistent as possible while also playing through hand traps. And it's difficult to find a balance between both, but I'm going to explain a lot as I go on through it, and it will be a pretty in-depth profile. So starting off with the Infernity package, one Archfiend, very standard, one Necromancer. There are some combos where you do need two Necromancer, however you don't need it for the combo in this version of the deck, and playing less, it actually helps the consistency a lot, because drawing Necromancer can be terrible in a lot of hands because it is just an additional normal summon, which we want to limit how many we draw. We still are on 2 Mirage, because while you can do some combos with only one, this helps you in hands where your hand was more awkward, and this helps you reach the ceiling and the end board you want to see. So this is the one we choose to maximize our normal summon count on, because Mirage really is just the highest impact one of them all, special summoning 2 from graveyard. One Patriarch. You need this for like your first Archfiend search, because you can make Dugaris and essentially get an additional Dugaris search, and you need this in graveyard to sort of protect your end board from like your opponent normal summoning a monster that can out your Infernity, and then you lose your barriers, which is what you're trying to stop, and Patriarch is amazing for stopping that. Next up, we are playing a synchro build, still the same as last version, except we have upped Wildcat up to 3 from 1, and we are playing the 1 Avenger. So previously I was on 1 Wildcat because in a lot of situations it can be a normal summon, just like Necromancer, because I mean, it's just an Infernity monster. Most Infernity monsters are terrible to open, but Wildcat not only is a level 3 extender, it can help like unbrick your hands by being a -1 and special summoning it. If you open Wildcat and an Infernity monster, it is super good, and I wanted to maximize on that chance. It also helps your Hulky Fibrax a little bit, making you be able to see him earlier and make sure you get to an Infernity tuner monster, because Hulky Fibrax can get more materials on board and make sure you see both tuners. So I feel like this has been a nice addition in my testing with the list and upping 3 Wildcat. It definitely comes with the downside of, seeing an extra normal summon when you shouldn't have, but a big thing you got to be very concerned about when playing this deck is making sure that if your power card, Tour Guide, gets negated, you have plays through that, and that's usually through level 3 extenders, so we're making this list run a lot of level 3 extenders. Now, as I've just put down, Tour Guide is definitely the most powerful starter in the deck. If she resolves, you almost always have your full combo. Like her by herself isn't going to do it, but you are so much more likely to see everything if you have Tour Guide, because she can get you to so much. She gets you to Cherubini, she can get you to Leviair. She actually has one of the weirdest starts with Wildcat, which I showed off in my ultimate combo video, by the way, link down below. Yeah, so Tour Guide is something you really want to open with, but if she gets negated, sometimes your hands can look rough, so you just want to extend through it with level 3 extenders and with other cards I'll be showing later that can help you do such a thing. Yeah, Tour Guide, just super impactful card, and we do have our 3 Secret First that are gorgeous, so yep, we're maximizing. Some people play 2, but I want to open her as consistently as possible, and this is a 43 card list, and also if you draw multiple, she can special summon from the hand, which is very important to remember because it makes it a -1, which is great. Then we have some of her targets. We have the Rhino Warrior, the Empress, the Heiress, my bad, and the Edge Imp Saber. So This card in the middle here, Archfiend Eris, is the worst card to draw in your deck, which is one of the reasons we are playing 43 cards. It is to draw her less, because if you draw her, sometimes your combos get really messed up, because you need to be able to send her to graveyard off of your Rhino Warrior or any effect to be able to add Infernity Archfiend from your deck to your hand. Which is why Cherubini is so important in this deck, is because you can make Cherubini with your level 3 extenders, dump Rhino Warrior, dump Eris, and then you can add Archfiend, and you can use Stygian Street Patrols or whatever else you have in your hand to try and special summon him, and that's just very, very important. Edge Imp Saber is a level 3 extender that can put cards from your hand to the top of the deck, which not only is a -1 to get a card out of your hand, however, there's also quite a few cards in this deck where you can search Archfiend and then put it to the top of the deck with Edge Imp Saber, and then use a draw card like Card Destruction or Drag Down from the Grave to draw Archfiend and use his effect that way. And your boards look really crazy if you do pull that off. So these are our main tour guide targets besides herself, and the ones that have the most utility and you can run them. So next up we have some level 3 extenders. We have Wheelader and Tracker. These are just level 3 extenders so that we can make Cherubini more often and play through more Interruption. 1 Jackalope, so this is the danger package. 1 Tsuchinoko, these are just your best ones. And then Mothman, there's sometimes where you either draw both Jackalope and Tsuchinoko, and that can be awkward in case one, like if you hit Jackalope, then it's not special summoning anything if you don't run at least 1 Mothman. But Mothman being level 4 is cool because it can help you go into Dugaris in some weird situations, so that's nice. And yeah, these just help you, you know, have more draw cards through your deck as well as be extenders, and they do everything the deck needs to do so. And then 2 Stygian Street Patrol. You need at least 2 of this card. 1 makes it very, very difficult sometimes, and it's not always terrible to open either if you draw like Dangers or discard outlets like Void Apocalypse. But yeah, this helps you special things from your hand like Mirage and Archfiend if you haven't gotten to Saryuja yet, and yeah, he's just a super important combo piece that you have to run because he special summons fiends from your hand. So I am playing a bunch of level 3s like extenders, putting out like the Jackalope here, the Tracker, of course we have the Tour Guide, which is level 3 stuff, the Wildcat. And this is to play through hand traps and just have more extenders. If your Tour Guide gets hand trapped by Ash or Impermanence, I've tried a couple of different things. Like I said earlier, I have like so many different routes I've tried recently with this deck. I've tried DD Designator, I've tried Crossout Designator, but you have to play that very weird if you're going to run it in the deck, because it's, in theory, a terrible card in this deck, because if you draw Ash Blossom, you're more than likely not going to be able to combo at all. At the end of the day, most of the times when I drew DD Designator or Crossout Designator, if it was just an extender or a Reborn spell, which is a big part of this deck now, they were just better. So we went with this level 3 extender package to make Cherubini as often as possible. On to spells, we have 3 Void Apocalypse. This is definitely one of the best spells in the deck by far. It's like almost equivalent to Tour Guide, or maybe even better. If you open this and Tour Guide, you have maximum combo almost every single time. But yeah, this just discards a card and then you send a Fiend Monster from your deck to your grave. So you can discard Dangers, you can discard Stygian Street Patrol, you can discard like any Infernity piece usually, and then dump either Stygian or Eris, or a way to get to Eris, or Archfiend. It just dumps any fiend from your deck, which is like all of your combo pieces. So not only is it a -1 discarding a card, but it gets you to your pieces. This card is phenomenal. Then we run 3 Allure of Darkness because it just technically gets you 2 new cards, and you can kind of do what you want with them. And banishing isn't always terrible, because if you like draw 2 spells and banish a monster, it's usually easier to combo after that, and you can just see more of your power cards by digging a little deeper. We are running 43, so it's not like this is making us like have a smaller deck count by running it, but it is 1 card that sees 2 new cards essentially, so that's pretty nice. And most importantly, it is a spell that can help you get somewhere, which is a lot better than monsters that can help you get somewhere, because if you're flooded with monsters, sometimes your hand's unplayable, but spells and traps, you can just set them. So that's usually pretty useful, and that's why we're maximizing Allure of Darkness. Then the last of the draw spells, but probably the most important one, is Drag Down into the Grave. From the Grave? I think I said from the grave earlier. It's Drag Down into the Grave. This card is so important for the deck, not only to be like a discard outlet to dump Stygian Street Patrols, dump Rhino Warrior, dump Eris, get anything out of your hand into the grave, but it snipes hand traps out of your opponent's hand, which is super important. Discarding things like Ash Blossom or Impermanence, yeah, that's really, really good. Discarding things like Nibiru, of course they can top deck a hand trap, but it's much better to confirm getting a hand trap out of their hand. But yeah, it's also a combo piece in the way you can draw Archfiend with it by putting him to the top of the deck with Edge Imp Sabers. It's very, very important. It does have some downsides in that it's very bad with Tour Guide, because you have to summon Tour Guide first before you can actually rip a card out of their hand with this. Otherwise, your opponent will just discard the Tour Guide. And it makes it a really weird, like, a contradictory card with Tour Guide, and she's one of your best cards, but you have to play this because it can rip hand traps and fix your hands. It's too important. So oftentimes, if you draw this in Tour Guide, you just summon Tour Guide, hope she goes off, but if she doesn't, you try to combo with everything else you have, in which drag down can help you do. So very, very nice. And always the lucky sack top deck Archfiend is nice to have. 1 Foolish Burial, we're into the staples. 1 Card Destruction. These are just very, very powerful one-ofs that can make the deck start working instantly. And Card Destruction is a little iffy because you're technically giving your opponent the chance to draw like more hand traps if they didn't open them, but it's all RNG based in that sense. So we do want to maximize on those cards. And Card Destruction, discarding 1 card is the same as, drag down for top deck Archfiend. So those 4 draw cards are the only draw cards in this deck that can actually use Archfiend's effect, because cards like Upstart Goblin don't, because he misses timing. Next up, we're going to go into the Reborn spells, which is something I was playing less of in my last version, but I wanted to up because of the way we're running the level 3 extender stuff. So I mentioned earlier cards like DD Designator and Crossout Designator, they just didn't do it, and most of the times I wanted Reborn spells because I feel like these just do it better. They are more consistent in starting your combo, but also helping you play through interruptions. Like having your Archfiend get ashed and then you're able to link off with it and summon him anyways is very, very good. Getting Nibiru'd, pretty much all of these will let you still play afterwards except Succession, which I think I might want to make an additional copy of Zero Max, but it also has its downsides. These cards are insane because it essentially means Cherubini plus 1 of these is full combo, and that's what we want, is like maximizing on these in a way where you're not just going to draw multiples with no play. So we're just running 4. You can draw them off Star Yuja more consistently when you run 4. I think I was running 2 or 3 in my last build, but I had a build recently that took out the Zero Max and I was just running Launcher and Reborn, but now I want to maximize these on a consistent basis, so I think 5 might be too much, but 4 is working pretty well. I could go to 44 and add another one, but yeah, it's hard to take anything out at this point, but I think these cards are very broken because, again, Cherubini plus any one of these is absolute full combo, and that's what we want to see. Of course, Launcher is an engine requirement, so we have to play that, but it is also just a double Reborn, and it's very, very good. So one of the best things I think to come out recently to help this deck is Dawn of Majesty, and that's Ready Fusion. So talking about the Instant Fusion and 2 Ready Fusion. So Instant Fusion most of the time is just going to get your Millennium Eyes, but it can also get your level 3 fusion monster of choice in your extra deck as long as it is a normal monster. And running Instant Fusion is better now because you have essentially more copies of it, which makes a card like Cross Sheep in the extra deck super, super insane. And Cross Sheep with these cards is absolutely bonkers. It's not only essentially more Reborn spells, which is why we're only playing 4. These plus Cross Sheep is essentially more copies of Reborn, but it's also like an extender that then Reborns. It's so good because you want to run generic Link 2s anyways to sort of clear your field, and you always had to run like really random Link 2s, but Cross Sheep is one you can make that is also super good because of Ready Fusion and Instant Fusion. So this is an additional card that helps you play around hand traps, and Ready Fusion is, again, a level 3 extender that we run that is also super good because of Cross Sheep. I'm thinking about playing 3 of it, but I want to run 2 because drawing multiples can suck like pretty bad. But again, it's a spell, so you can just set it. And that actually wraps it up for spells. The last 3 cards in the deck, which I guess could be like the 41st, 2nd, and 3rd card, are of course the trap cards that we play. This is the 2 Barrier and the 1 Break. I was playing Suppression over this because it, again, can play through hand traps. But it's really just if your opponent doesn't know you have it, because if your opponent knows you have it and they ask to read the card, they'll still be able to hand trap you pretty much anywhere they want to, except like Ash on Archfiend. Yeah, it kind of just most of the time was more effect negation, like monster effect negation, which is, you already have too much of that on your end board, so it felt kind of like diminishing returns, and it made you weaker to things like Mystic Mine, where Break is actually super useful against a card like that. And Break is just one of the best Infernity traps for a long time. I think this is actually the 2 most people choose to play. I see a lot of lists playing 3 Barrier, however, I don't want to open too many traps and then not have combo, and that is why we are playing just less traps in the form of 3, because even at 3 I draw too many traps off, and like if you draw 2 of these, it's really hard to combo unless you opened really good past that. But yeah, that is the main deck. It's 43 cards. Running essentially just get to Cherubini, have a Reborn spell. There's a million ways you can get to combo without that. but it's just a really simple, concise way to always get there. On to the extra deck, we have the one Cherubini, again one of the most important because he essentially is full combo, and that's why we're running so many level 3 extenders. We're running Halki Fibrax, very important because it essentially means Wildcat is Avenger, and Avenger is Wildcat, so you can very easily access your Infernity tuners, and he is a Link 2 that specials on monsters, so 2 monsters turns into like Link 3 rating, which is very, very good. And then we have the generic Link 2s you make to clear space or need their arrows, and that is Beat Cop from the Underworld and Cross Sheep. But Cross Sheep is absolutely a phenomenal new addition to this deck. Yeah, if a monster is fusion summoned to its zone, you can special summon a level 4 lower monster from your graveyard, which means you can get Necromancer, Necromancer can get Archfiend. It's a very, very high impact, just generic Link 2 if we're going to have to play one. You can run Barricade Borg, but I think Cross Sheep is now definitely the way to go once Ready Fusion came out. It's just so much more gas to the deck that was already known for just exploding. Then we're running 2 Saryuja. Oftentimes you can go through 2. You don't always go through 2, so sometimes I mess with the second copy to see if I can run a better like go second card like access code. But there's often times where you need the second Saryuja, so yeah, we're just running the 2, and then Appaloosa because this is part of your end board. You just want to have a 4 negate Appaloosa plus a Savage plus, you know, your Herald of Arclight and your insane amount of traps. So speaking of your main synchros, you got Herald of Arclight and you have Boarload Savage, of course, in any deck with Hout combo, and like you're gonna end up making these, it feels like, and this deck is no different, and these are really good because they're just additional negates. And then 100 Eyes Dragon. This is a card Synchro Infernity plays pretty much all the time. It essentially gets you an additional search off Archfiend because you can banish Mirage, and then once you banish Mirage, you can actually special it back with Levier, and this essentially becomes 2 Mirages, which means you can get all your searches if you open like a weird combo and need a little help getting there. Then I'm running 1 Levier. This was previously 2, but I needed to make space for not only the Cross Sheep and the Fusion to summon it and the Millennium Eyes, but I also wanted to run Bamboozling because we are running so many level 3 extenders. If we're able to make this before combo, it is just another way to sort of mitigate the effect of hand traps on our deck, so that is very nice. And you just sort of keep this on board until you're able to make your Appaloosa, and then you're sort of fine. And then 1 Dugaris because you use this for your Patriarch plus Archfiend. It can also help you get into combo in the really bad hands. And then your fusions. 1 of this guy, his name is something. It is Cherubin. That's what we're going with. And then this is a Bakuri box, but it's really not a Bakuri box. This is Millennium Eyes Restrict. I do not have one on me, but this is what you want to run for your instant fusion because it is another way to mitigate the effect of hand traps on your deck. So very, very important to run. And those are your instant fusion and ready fusion target. Of course, instant fusion can grab both, which is great. But that is the deck. So that is the updated Infernity list. I hope you guys enjoyed. I put quite a bit of thought into this one, trying to help the deck out some more because it is a super fun, high ceiling deck, but it does have its fair share of issues. So finding the right build for it, I feel like I'm always trying to improve this deck. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, leave your thoughts down below, how you would change the deck, what you would run, if you're trying anything new with the deck. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. This has been Top Tier Gaming. Bye, YouTube.